Question 1. How do I start a story? This question is the ever-looming specter hovering over the shoulder of every writer trying to create their next great tale. And unfortunately, this is the question that never really goes away. Even if you find the perfect start to your magnum opus, it'll make a valiant return when you start your next one. Not to mention that each specific start to each work is unique to each specific narrative. However, the situation isn't quite as hopeless as it might sound. There are some techniques that will make the decision a bit easier, and these two pieces of advice from the esteemed Kurt Vonnegut should do the trick. 1. Start as close to the end as possible. This is the first thing to keep in mind. So many stories get bogged down in prologues and information overload that we never get to the meat of the story, or rather, the audience never makes it there. Although this piece of advice might seem a little vague, the basic question posed here is, what sparks the conflict? Conflict is something that new writers tend to struggle a lot with, but it's also the beating heart of a story. To paraphrase Neil Gaiman, wherever you have conflict, you have a story. When do your characters get on that yellow brick road to seek the wizard? And, perhaps more importantly, what events pushes them there? For Dorothy, it's being sent to the wondrous world of Oz, and being tossed into conflict with the Wicked Witch of the West. So we get two. Dorothy wanting to go home, but circumstances preventing her from doing so, and Dorothy trying to survive the vicious machinations of the Wicked Witch. Your story doesn't need to begin with the Dorothy landing in Oz moment. It's reasonable to have time to set a plot and develop character before we get to the conflict. It's just preferable if we don't have to slog through mundane minutiae that never connects to the central story. While the movie Wizard of Oz spent quite a bit of time with Dorothy before she's whisked away to the magical land, we also get something else, which leads us to our next piece of advice. Every sentence must do one of two things: reveal character or advance the action. While the first piece suggests where to begin, this one shows us how. Remember when I mentioned that section of time we spend with Dorothy before she begins her adventure? We see her life on the farm and the other wacky characters who work there. But as we follow Dorothy, we learn what kind of person she is, and we're introduced to the people who would become major players in Dorothy's adventures in Oz. Regardless of your own chosen starting point, or even if you're still stuck figuring out what that starting point is, this technique can help narrow down your decision. Ask yourself, are you introducing your plot? Like in the Jack Reacher movie where we see the sniper incident play out, the event that kicks off the main plot of the story. Or would you like to introduce your character, like in the movie Kill Bill, where we're introduced to a blood-spattered Beatrix Kiddo lying on the ground, while Bill looms over her, ready to shoot her in the head? Not only does this introduction spark mystery to Kiddo's character, but also shows us a moment that fuels her roaring rampage of revenge. However, even when your opening scene is as mundane as your character sitting in a coffee shop, that outing to the coffee shop should either advance the plot or reveal something personal about your character, their hopes, dreams, or perhaps internal conflict.